Good afternoon. Today we are finally going to add this inverter for some extra power in the camper. But first, we gotta do something with this. Throw this out of the way because we're gonna be working in the heat. And yes, I wake up like this. Humidity problems. Yeah. Okay, so after much debate, I'm deciding that I'm going to actually have my inverter in here in the battery box. But this top shelf is just too narrow for it to fit, so I'm going to have to add a removable piece of wood here so that it will fit here properly. Okay, approximately 23 inches. Alright, well, if you know me, I work with what I got. I had this thin piece of plywood, just cut it in half. It's going to fit. Just fit. Ooh, maybe not. Yeah, something like this. I'm gonna have this be like a removable shelf, because if I need to access the batteries a little easier, I'm gonna have to just be able to have this, oh my goodness, maybe be gone, out of the way. Yeah, that's the plan. So I'm going to just have to screw something in on the sides here to hold this shelf in place. And it's really only there to help support the other half of the inverter because it's just too long widthwise to fit there. Alright, got my little temporary shelf up here. Just use some little, I don't know what these things are, L brackets, short ones. The other one's under here. It just, I cut the board too long, I guess, to stick the other one up on this end. But it's just like a little bit of support. I'll show you why I need that extra width here in a second. Alright, here is the plan. The inverter is going to be here on this top shelf. Obviously, I'm going to have cables coming off of it, going down and connecting to the batteries down here. This cord right here, I have running through the battery box. And this is a little power button to turn the inverter on. So what I'm going to do is sneak that through the window just like I did the monitor for the diesel heater. That way I'll be able to turn on the inverter when I need to use it inside the camper. And the other thing I did was purchase a port plug. So I'm going to have to cut a hefty hole in the side of the camper coming up from this battery box. And what I'm going to end up doing is just having it on the side like this somewhere. And obviously I'll have a cord running from the inverter to this here. Let me open it up. To this here, which will be in the side of the camper. And then inside of the camper obviously will be these two plugs. So I'll be able to plug in different things like a hair dryer and whatever else. Yes, I do have a generator, but it's always good to have another backup power source. And also this one's going to be less noisy if I just need to use it for something late at night. I won't have to fire up the generator. It's good to be courteous. Just some advice from someone who's been there. When you're dealing with multiple cables like this, positive and negative, might be a good idea to tape them up so that they don't touch. Yeah. Ask me how I know. I should mention too, this is a 3000 watt inverter. It is not a pure sine wave inverter. I believe it's a modified inverter. Not really sure what the difference is. I hear the pure sine wave is the best of the best. This one, I don't plan on running the whole camper off of it. I literally just plan on being able to plug things in with ease. You know, hair dryer, yada yada yada. But I don't plan on, however, running everything off of it. Like I said, it's just making life a little easier, you know? Alright, got all the cables set up on the back. So the next thing to do, probably gonna want to cut the power to the solar while I'm messing with these batteries here. Alright, next step, I'm going to remove power to the solar. And I hate shutting off my fridge on a hot day, but I've got to go ahead and unhook the batteries. Alright, everything is blank, there's nothing displaying, everything's unhooked. I'm not gonna lie, messing with this stuff always freaks me out a little bit, but here we go. Oh my goodness. Well, a mess of cables later, I think it's hooked up properly, so technically this inverter should turn on. Oh my god, it's not turning on. Okay, never mind. I just had to push the button. Okay. So, it says it's on and it says the batteries are 13.1 volts right now, which makes sense. They're not currently hooked up to the solar. I just unhooked it to hook this all up, but they were charged to about there, so that's good to know. Shut this back off. Now that we know the inverter is working, I want the port plug to come in through this shelf here. Okay, I have a general idea of where I want this to go, but just to be safe, I'm just going to put a long screw through it first before I try going ahead with a 2-inch hole cutter. See where that went on the inside. Well, it's not exactly where I thought it would be, but I think that'll work. I'll just try to stay slightly above that if I can. Yeah, my concern is this lip right here. The other problem is with this aluminum, if I go a little above it, you've got this lip. So, yeah. Ugh, look at the size of this thing. If that isn't nerve-wracking, man, oh man. Oh no. Oh, that's hot. Oh, that's hot. Yeah. Well, I made it through the aluminum. That little layer of insulation in there is a lot thicker than I thought it would be. It's like 2 inches. but this is just the front of the camper, so who knows about the rest. Okay, just have to get through that plywood. Oh my god, the whole end came off. Well, there she be. You can definitely see right in there now. Got ourselves a little hole in the shelf. Yeah, I don't know what happened, but this hole cutter just fell right off the end of my drill. That's scary. Next up, I'm really hoping that this is the right size hole. So let me just fish these ends through. Okay, that's gonna work. All right, this is what it's gonna look like. I am planning on putting a little silicone around that to keep it. I know it has a little rubber seal around it. So I actually had to move this flap off to the side because it was just so close to this edge that I didn't like it. So I have two options. I can either stick 4 screws in or 2, however many, just to keep a good seal here, or I can silicone around the edges. But first things first, I'm going to go ahead and hook this power back up because my fridge has been off for too long. Okay, everything is hooked all back up again. I don't know what you can see. Yeah. Everything's good here. I accidentally just dropped my little temperature sensor, so I'm going to have to find that. Get this back on here and get cold again. You know what? We'll test just how cold this stayed, won't we? It stayed nice and cold. I only had it off for about less than an hour probably. Next on the list is to connect the inverter to the port plug. Unfortunately, the shortest cord Walmart had was this bright orange, so I went with it for now. You know, I might change that out another time, but yeah. Okay, so if you can get an idea of what's going to be happening here. This is going to be plugging into this. Keep in mind I don't have it situated in here permanently just yet. But then we're going to have this cord plugged into the front of the inverter. What I'm going to need to do is cut a hole either in the side of this box over here, another one because you can see there's a few for other wires to come in, or right back here so that the cord can just come directly up, which I might do. It is a very bright cord, wow. Yeah, definitely be replacing that. It was the shortest one I could find. It's 6 foot. That's all Walmart really had. But yeah, so that's what we're gonna do. Cut a hole in this battery box. But I think even before we do that, we're gonna test this thing out. All right, got it plugged into the inverter, plugged into this little thing up here that is not permanently mounted. But I am going to turn the inverter on. Oh. See where we're at, 14.1 volts. Makes sense, the solar's all hooked back up, 14.3. All right, let's go test this thing out. Excuse the mess. I feel like I say that a lot on this channel, but I've always got something going on in this. I live in a camper. It is what it is. Got my hair dryer here. I'm going to plug it into one of these plug-ins. How confident are you in my work? Comment down below if you think this is actually going to turn on. I'm nervous. 1, 2, 3. Well, that is exciting. Yeah, like I said, I know I can do that by turning on my generator, but I don't really have to now if I don't want to. I do think I'll still use the generator to turn on the microwave because there's no way in hell I'm going to be running an extension cord of sorts from the microwave over here to the little area where the plugins are available for the inverter. However, it is nice that if it is late at night, I take a shower late, need to dry my hair, I don't like turning on that generator and disturbing the neighbors past 10 p.m. usually. Even though I don't have a lot of neighbors, it's really just the people on the other side of the road. I don't want to wake them up if my generator is loud enough for them to hear it through their house. I don't know if it is, but I don't want to take that chance. So now I don't really have to. That's kind of nice to know. Also, I had been using this little inverter, just plugging it in up here, but this has such a loud fan in it for such a small little unit that it's really kind of annoying while you're charging devices or camera batteries or cell phones with this running. And because this inverter is outside, I'm not going to hear it when the fan comes on, so that's kind of nice too. It is a super huge mess of wires right now, but yeah, we'll fix that up. Okay, one more little test before we bring this project to a close. I've got this cord hooked up, so technically I should be able to turn the inverter on and off with the button that's connected to it. Let's try it. Okay, here it is. Hella long cord, but that's fine. This will be inside the camper, so as long as it works, I should be able to turn this inverter on and off for use on the inside. The inside. That just made me sound like I'm in prison. That's not what I meant. Anyway, we can see it's a weird angle here because I'm trying to hold up the battery box lid, but you can see that the inverter is on. I've got this little handy dandy button here, so I'm going to go ahead and shut it off. There we go. The light's off. The lights are off on the inverter, so it completely shut that off. Now we know that this works and we can install it somewhere inside the camper. Wowzers, that wood is thick. Okay, cord is hooked up inside, coming through the hole, and it's just a matter of plugging it in right here. I did just silicone this with 100% waterproof silicone. I'm going to let that set, make sure that it's dried before I go ahead and use this. I just don't want any extra weight pulling down on it. Hopefully that works. Oh. A little shoddy, but since the back of this thing is offset, my other option was to cut a hole in this shelf and stick it in there. That way I could have it flush to the wall and put some screws in either side, but I just didn't want to do something that permanent in here. So I'm just going to stick it on there with some Velcro, and I mean, it works. I don't know, it kind of stays. It's a little bit flimsy, but I'm only going to be pushing this button to turn on the inverter. That's it. Same thing as the monitor for the diesel heater. I just stuck it under the plywood that's in the window here and have that cord coming over, and inside here there's a lot of extra cord, so I just wrapped it up with a zip tie, and of course it's plugged in. Alright, I have one more project I want to complete, but before anyone says anything, these are okay to be outside in the cold weather as long as they stay dry. That's why I have it in this battery box, and that's why I'm going to be putting a piece of tin on top of here just in case any drips of rain or snow come down on this thing. don't do what I do. I shut off the propane. If there had been a leak or anything over here while I was doing that, it wouldn't be good. There were sparks flying everywhere, so be careful. I can be dumb sometimes. Anyhow, you guys get the idea, so I'm going to put a couple roofing screws in just to hold this onto the lid. And that'll just give it a little extra protection against the snow and the rain. And that thing will stay nice and dry in there. Well, that is today's project. It only took me 4 or 5 years to hook up that inverter. Nevertheless, it is finally complete and I can have power in there without having to run the generator. So that's a plus. Anyway, guys, hopefully you learned a few things from this video. Hopefully there were a few things that you learned what not to do. And hopefully I will catch you in the next.